Macmillan Cancer Support is to axe 150 jobs amid the soaring inflation. We're going to read into this exclusive from The Guardian, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an exclusive from The Guardian with the headline that Macmillan Cancer Support is to axe 150 jobs amid soaring inflation. The exclusive revealed that the charity seeks to minimise the impact of the cuts of beneficiaries living with cancer. Guys, while you're here, before I give my initial thoughts, if you can, hit the like button and share this across social media so others are notified of this video. Macmillan Cancer Support has done some amazing work when it comes to tackling cancer. They have the work that they have done, the lives that they have changed, the difference they have made to people is just without a doubt beyond the question. And this is, I know, I personally myself don't like the fact that we use charities in this country. Now, obviously, let's just take a step back. Before 2010 and that, we still had plenty of charities before austerity and whatnot. But we must always give the appreciation and commemoration to charities that do the wonderful work they do, even if we don't agree that we are relying on charities. And yes, there is this premise that we have, is that those who rely on charities, it's a sign of a failure from the government, and I do believe that. But regardless of what you think about charities, Macmillan has done incredible things, and it's really sad to see that to see them who have done such amazing work reducing the amount of jobs they are. Now, obviously, before we read into it, there could be a number of factors to this. It could be a case of I wouldn't say this is austerity. I would say, obviously, one of the reasons why they are making this decision, is probably because of people who are struggling to donate and support Macmillan Cancer Research. I think that's become one of the bigger reasons here in the UK. As we all know, as we're all aware, people are really struggling to count their pennies, and less people are giving out to charities than they used to be. That's just the grim reality of it. It has reduced those numbers, and because of that, it's made the work that Macmillan have done even tougher. And so, in that sense, yeah, they will be relying more on volunteering rather than actually paid work, because there is a lot of volunteers who really do help out the wonderful work they do. But obviously, there are some people who are paid within the charity itself, and those unfortunately are set to go. And I don't think anyone within it wanted to do this, but I think, given the situation that people are in, given the fact that less people are handing out their money to charities more than ever before, it's not a case that people don't want to give, that people don't want to support charities. It's not that case at all. It's simply because people just can't afford it. You know, the people who were in the middle and low incomes are having to tighten their belts even more, which means they even had to make sacrifices. And I would say that these people don't want to stop supporting charities, those who do, but some of them feel they have to because they need to look after themselves and look after their own. And I would say I understand, and I would say to them who do that, I totally understand that situation, that those that have to make that difficult decision, because the most important thing is you looking after yourself before anything else. So I think that really does, the whole cost of living crisis has played a massive role, I believe, in this decision by Macmillan Cancer Support to axe 150 jobs. So let's read a little bit into it, guys. So Macmillan Cancer Support, one of Britain's biggest and best known charities, is planning to axe 150 jobs, one in 14 of its workforce, saying that it is getting harder to raise money to cover rising demands for its help due to the increasing number of people living with cancer. I think there's just missed a very important point as well, actually, is that because we are having a national healthcare service in crisis, in particular here in England, the amount of treatment that cancer has been taken has obviously become harder and more difficult. So there's obviously more people who are suffering as a result of cancer because of the situation that our healthcare service is in. So I think that it's making things even more difficult for them to be able to provide the support they need as well. Um, and I think that's an important factor as well. The charity, whose service played a vital role in local NHS provision, spends £250 million a year funding about 11,000 specialist cancer nurses and care workers and providing financial, practical and emotional support and advice to the public, including thousands of 200 grants to patients needing help with energy and travel costs. Macmillan is an established part of the UK voluntary fabric and traditionally one of the most effective and popular fundraisers, consistently pulling in more than £200 million a year from legacies and money raised by tens of thousands of participants in events ranging from the marathons, hikes and bike rides to significant coffee mornings. But its heavy reliance on charity fundraising has been exposed by soaring inflation and a surge in demand for advice and support from a rising number of people needing help to cope with financial and psychological consequences of cancer diagnosis and long waits for NHS treatment. So all these things are obviously playing a factor into it. Inflation, more people needing financial support, the emotional, psychological needs of after being treated with cancer. There's all these factors that are playing into this as well. So all these things are building up on them. And obviously, if you want to help even more people, that means you need more money coming in. If you're not getting more money coming in, well, that's when it gets really stretched, for those who work within the organisation. So it's a very difficult situation for them. Like I said, it said in the statement, like many organisations, Macmillan has felt the impact of a difficult financial environment. It is getting harder to raise money, and inflation means it costs more to do the same as we did a few years ago. We are tackling these challenges by transforming so we have a more impact for people with cancer, but without relying on raising more money to be able to do that. This has meant taking the difficult decision to reduce the size of the organisation and sadly means we must make some valued colleagues redundant. We are taking these difficult decisions and building new strategies to ensure Macmillan is in the best possible position to provide the vital support and people living with cancer that needs now and long into the future. A Macmillan spokesperson said it has sought to minimise the impact of the cuts and beneficiaries living with cancer. Whilst the job losses were organisation-wide, they would not hit staff provision advice and support directly to the public. The vast majority of the clinicians it funds are employed by the NHS. The move has shocked the voluntary sector because the biggest charities have been largely resilient to the cost of living crisis, unlike smaller organisations which are often at the mercy of donor fatigue and council funding cuts. It's a surprise. Most big charities are hiring rather than shredding jobs, one analyst has said. Yeah, I mean, the charities that obviously use volunteering obviously have been able to then I would agree with this, that they're not too affected by the cost of living crisis, but I do question whether or not, and obviously maybe some of you guys who are listening may be working for charities or work part-time or even work voluntarily, so maybe some of you guys in the comments can let me know. But is it more harder now to get in donations? As a question I think that is worth wondering, because I do think that is playing a role in this, because obviously I do think this cost of living crisis is having a major impact on all charities in the UK, not just Macmillan, and I do think that is playing a part. But it says here most charities are hiring rather than shedding jobs. Well, one thing charities are doing is, because they are taking up a lot of retail spaces that have been empty for a long time and places around the country, because they are a charity, so they get a discount, don't they? A Macmillan staff member told The Guardian in the latest rounds of cuts had created a horrible atmosphere and questioned whether the management had taken its eye off the ball of its core fundraising role. A lot of good people will be losing their jobs, they said. It's all pretty grim. I mean, any job losses is grim. But I think they're looking. I mean, obviously, I'm reading this from the outside, like as you guys are. But I'm looking at this from the perspective of times are tough and we have to make difficult decisions. And over time, like any business or organisation, you need to make adjustments and changes. I think that's a natural thing. Now, is it right that people lose their jobs? Of course not. I wouldn't categorise Macmillan Cancer Support like some other businesses in the UK when it comes to how they cull jobs and whatnot. But I mean, I could be wrong. The job losses come 3 years after Macmillan Cancer Support culled 300 jobs during the pandemic, as it's prepared to lose tens of £1 million in income as a result of the lockdown cancellations and thousands of fundraising events. They culled 300 jobs during the pandemic. Oh, now that I did not know about. Okay, that's pretty. That's oh. Oh wow, that's pretty bleak. That does actually question. Wow, I obviously I understand the needs for sometimes businesses to make difficult decisions, but they culled 300 jobs during the pandemic. Oh my god, I did not know that. Oh wow, that's very questionable. Although fundraising income picked up after the COVID lockdowns ended, the charity faces underlying financial challenges. It spent more than it made in donations in 4 out of 5 past years. It has more than once drawn heavily on dwindling financial reserves to balance the books and meet the rising demands for services. Its latest financial accounts in the year to 31st December 2022, published in October, showed the charity income had dipped from £231 million to £227 million. Partly as a result of declining donations as rising costs hit donor pockets, and at the same time spending on staff, overheads, grants and services rose to £252 million. Of Macmillan's income, 97% comes via fundraising and legacies. It's raised £204 million this way in 2022, down £6 million year on year, lower than pre-COVID levels. Fundraising is understood to have flatlined over the past year. Macmillan Cancer Support has toppled YouGov's annual charity rankings that measure which charities the public was most likely to donate for 11 years in a row, ahead of other household names such as Cancer Research UK and the British Heart Foundation. The charity's chief executive, Gemma Peters, who joined over a year ago, has described Macmillan's culture as quite clunky, soloed and a bit too hysterical. She last year launched a major strategy to review to re-examine its role, structure and priorities, including its heavy reliance on charity fundraising. Sarah Vibant, the chief executive of the National Council for Voluntary Organisations, says charities of all sizes are facing a triple threat of record demands, falling incomes and rising operational costs, with none of these showing signs of letting up any time soon. And Sarah is absolutely right about all these. You know, with the cost, for the cost of all of this is gone up. The inflation obviously was a factor. Falling incomes for household, as I said, tying into the cost of living crisis. She's absolutely spot on with her statement there about the rising demands as well. So I couldn't agree more with her statement there. It is. I do actually, I wasn't aware of the 300 jobs axed during the pandemic, but let me know in the comments down below. Are there other charities that did that as well during the pandemic? I'm curious to know about that, because while I really do love and appreciate every single charity out there and the work that they do to make a difference to people's lives, and I generally mean that sincerely. I do question why we are in a situation where we are reliant on charities to. I do question why are we relying on charities in the first place? This is my question I put to you, because we shouldn't have to rely on charities. And the answer, of course, is 14 years of Conservative. Is it just 14 years of Conservative? I know some people. Is it not both political parties? Is it just government failure to not actually take more off the shoulders of charities, and for the government to do more to ensure that people are always getting the health and support they needed, rather than people handing out to charities in order to do the job that a state is supposed to provide? And I think that's a question too that needs to be made. But what do you guys think? What do you guys make of Macmillan's Cancer Support? They axed 150. They're planning to axe 150 jobs. They axed 300 during the pandemic. Let me know what your thoughts about them and other charities and the work they do in the comments section down below, to give me a better understanding about charities and the organisations and the work that they do, guys. If you found this information helpful and this video informative, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate. Share it across social media and subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.